Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to do my June wrap up. Now if you've watched my more recent videos, you will have seen already a wrap up that I did after I came back from my Philippines vacation. Basically I was in the Philippines for a week, and that was just a week of not doing tourism. It's just a week of me going to the beach, swimming and reading all day. And in that video I basically did a wrap up of 5 books that I read during that week, which were La Bête, Aveugle by Edogawa Ranpo, which is the blind beast. Lucrèce Borgia by Victor Hugo, which is a play. L'Alieniste by Machado de Assis, who is a very famous Brazilian author, but I struggled with this book. I also read a nonfiction by my sister-in-law, Kayleen Schaefer, called But You're Still So Young, How 30-Somethings Are Redefining Adulthood. And then I also finished, I read in its entirety the book Killers of the Flower Moon, The Osage Murders, and the Birth of the FBI by David Grann. So in that video, I basically presented all these books and did a wrap up. So I won't do that here. However, there are 2 things that I want to mention that I didn't mention the first in that video. The first was for this book. I forgot to mention that I'm very excited that I finished this, because it turns out that this has been on my TBR pile since 2011. So this book has been on my TBR pile for 13 years. So I just wanted to say, very happy that I finally got through this book. So it's just to show you shouldn't let books linger on your TBR pile for too long. There are still gems on there. The second comment I want to make that I didn't make was I praised this quite highly, and I think it does deserve the praise that other people give and that I gave. But there is one aspect of this book that I forgot to discuss that is something that I have kind of developed an awareness for, and I'm not too sure how I feel about it. So the book is basically split into 3 parts. The first part is called The Marked Woman, and that basically gives you all the history about sort of who is going to be the main anchor for the entire story. So this is Molly Bookhart, and basically all the murders and the investigation for the murders that happened within this within the Osage tribe kind of started with her and her family, and so the book revolves around her. So the first third of the book is discussing that. It goes through all the murders that happened within her family, the history of her family, etc. Then volume 2 is not volume 2, but the book 2, the second part of this book, is called The Evidence Man. So there, that's when you start having detectives coming in. It's when you start having the Department of Justice come in, collect evidence, try and figure out who or which organization, basically, but just trying to figure out who is what is responsible for all these murders. Now it's the third part that I want to talk about, because part 1 and part 2 were excellent, and David Grann really presented a really great linear, really clear, highly understandable, easily followable presentation of this situation. But part 3 is called The Reporter, and basically part 1 and part 2, he concludes everything. Everything's finished. He talks about the justice system. We've gone through the trial. Justice has prevailed. Hurrah, etc., etc. And so you think he's done with the book, but he does a part 3, and this is the part where I'm finding happens a lot with male nonfiction writers, where part 3 is about him and him going back and just finding a little bit of evidence from other murders that hadn't actually been solved, because basically it was just the main cases that were solved, but it turns out there were a lot of other little murders that kind of got dismissed or sort of forgotten or just thrown aside, and he kind of goes back into that to help the families. And when he does that, yeah, it's really helpful, but when he writes about it in this book, it just seems I am the hero, look what I've done. No other detective in the past could do this, only I could do this. I was, it's very self-aggrandizing, stroking the ego, trying to create a reputation for himself. And I was discussing this with someone, and they made a comment which I think is key and something that I need to watch out for. And the comment that this person made was, maybe that's the difference between nonfiction written by a journalist and a historian. And it's true, because whenever I come up with this issue where the writer like puts himself into their nonfiction and sort of like makes this situation, the story about them, it's always a journalist. It's always a journalist. It's never a historian. And so I think I definitely need in the future to be more aware of that, because I think journalists have, especially male journalists, have this really bad habit of putting themselves in their nonfiction books and making themselves the hero of their books. So that was a part that I forgot to talk about that I wanted to mention now, where it definitely brought the mood and the impact of the book down when he did that. And I wasn't really as, I just wasn't, eager to stand in line and stroke his ego basically when he wrote that part. So that was the only thing that I missed that I wanted to discuss. So those are the books that I read in the Philippines. Now I'm going to be honest with you, I did not really read any other books at all, or I didn't finish any other books. Maybe I should make that distinction. When I left off with you guys after my Philippines video, I mentioned that I had started and I'd gotten halfway through 2 ans de vacances, so 2 years of vacation, by Jules Verne. So I had read half of this when I came back from Philippines, and I said I was going to keep reading, and I think I read another 50 pages when I got back to Japan, and then I just got distracted by something else, which I will mention shortly. But yeah, so I still have 200 pages left of this because I didn't get back to it. Another place that I will disappoint you guys, I still haven't finished the 10 pages of Trouble with Lichen by John Wyndham. I've been discussing about this book since January. Now it's just a running, most likely quite tired joke by now. But the intention is still there. Hopefully it'll happen, but that still hasn't happened. And then another book I haven't finished, like right before and it's ridiculous that I haven't finished this. This is the memoir, Our Story, a memoir of love and life in China by Ranpo, which is just this beautiful, really just beautifully illustrated and written book. All the illustrations are done by the writer himself of this, the man. It's written by the husband of this young couple as they grow old in China, basically. And it's really, really beautiful, and I was really enjoying it. But I just haven't finished it, which is silly because it's such an easy read. It's such an easy read that, in fact, the night I was leaving for the Philippines, because it was a 12:30 a.m. flight, it was in the middle of the night, just right past midnight. I was like, this is stupid. I should just sit down and finish this before I leave for the Philippines. And I just immediately, like not even an hour, I read 100 pages of this. That's how easy and how quick it is to read this book. But I did have to, finally leave the house, and still I have like 10 pages of this left. It's ridiculous, 10 pages, and I still haven't finished this. It's absolutely ridiculous. I don't know what my issue is these days with not being able to finish anything, but that's just the state of the matter. Then another book that I haven't discussed with you guys yet, but I am also in the middle of reading. This is my PDF read at work, and that is L'Argent, or Money, by Émile Zola. So this is part of the Rougon-Macquart cycle. This is a series, the famous series about that follows the Rougon-Macquart family in France during the Napoleon era of France, and just goes through like, basically it uses this family as an anchor for and then it just shows the realities of France during that time period, the politics and society and just everything, and then how that family interacts with that. And it's really, really fascinating, and it's really, really beautiful, and I've been really, really enjoying all the books that I've read from him. But this one, I don't know what my issue with is, but I'm doing better now that I finally reached the second half of the book. But the first half of the book, I was very detached from the reading experience. And I know I'm definitely less interested, because this talks about the creating of a bank by one of the characters. And I definitely know when it comes to finance and finance terminology and all that, I do tend to drown all those words out. It's why I can't go on dates with finance bros. I just can't. really boring, people. sorry I have this one date with a finance bro that just like singe into my brain of just like, this is a really bad date. Yeah, so anything that's like kind of financy, I sort of like kind of drown it out. And but I don't know, yeah, I was just very detached from the reading. I was having trouble grasping to the story part of the book, and not just about the creating the bank part of the book. So this also is still a work in progress. So basically, you might be asking, well, Philippines was just 1 week in the entire month of June. What have you been doing in the meantime? Well, I'll tell you what I've been doing in the meantime. I've been doing this in the meantime, and it's basically finishing Dragon Ball, the whole entirety of Dragon Ball, the manga. So I read in the month of June from volumes 17 to volumes 42 of Dragon Ball, which means I finished the entire series. I basically read the entire series in a month and a half. I was addicted to this. By the end, I was reading 1 to 2 volumes a day, and I just couldn't stop. I just wanted to get through it. This is a huge feat in terms of just it being really famous work. It's basically Japanese culture, this is, and it's also a huge feat of nostalgia because I grew up watching the Dragon Ball anime. Absolutely loved it, but because of the way I was watching it, there were so many holes in my experience. So this is the first time I was able to see how all the elements really connected together, and that was just an amazing experience. I'm not going to discuss the particulars of this in this video. I am going to be doing a dedicated video to just this manga series. I don't think I'll be able to do that very soon because I'm actually leaving for France this week for a 3-week vacation. And so I don't have the time to discuss this and film a video right now as I'm sitting here, unless I did a nighttime video. But even then, I don't think I have time. So I'll do it when I come back from France. But there will be a dedicated video to just this series. But yeah, that's it. I mean, June was basically just the Philippines reading and then Dragon Ball. This is all I did the entire month of June. And it was fantastic. It was absolutely fabulous. But there are some books that I really want to just say that I finished, basically, just to be like, yes, I finished this book. Let me present it to you. You've been waiting for me to talk about these books forever. Let me present them to you. So I really want that to be finished, you know, in a relatively soon time span. So that's it for my June wrap up. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.